Why, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 307 podcast. We appreciate you joining us on today's episode. It's been quite a while since we've been in here with a full house, but we're back. We're back from good old dry, rocky, hot, and then cold, and then snow, and then all that in Arizona. We're back here in Georgia in the studio with a full house. You got me. I don't even know what my nickname is anymore. Chad. And we
Lil
got
C.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lil C. You got Lil C in the house,
It is
son.
now.
You got Chili. We have the Reverend James Ward up in the house today, about to bring the word to the 307 podcast on yet again. And then we've got, of course, we've got the old wise tech guy. You know, made a post about Blake and his advice that he gave me out on the race course when I was battling these daggone stupid attacks on my mind. And Blake, I finally told him about it, and he just, boy, he was loving it. He was just loving it that I was having to feel for once how most normal mortal humans feel. And boy, he liked it. But he gave me up some wisdom, and you know, it was, everybody knows Blake is the wise one out of at least the three of us. Everybody knows James is wise too. But when decisions had to be made out there on the course, who did I ask for?
James.
Yeah. What did James say about that? Right? See, James will keep you alive. Chili will kill you.
Chili will run you right off the cliff.
Yep. Chili will push you off the cliff.
He'll cheer you on all the way.
Yep. And then Blake, he just loves watching it all happen, either way it goes. But we're glad to be back. Boy, that didn't quite go the way we planned, huh?
Well, how'd you plan it to go?
Well, I figured with that 8-week training block, I figured I would have just breezed right through it.
Don't know why you thought that.
You know, I by the way, guys, for the listeners who don't know, because we didn't talk about it much, what we're talking about here is we all just got back from Arizona. We were in Arizona all last week, and I ran a race called the Cocodona 250, which is about 252 miles point to point from Black Canyon City, Arizona, and it finishes up in downtown Flagstaff. So we just wrapped that up, and it's the hardest thing that I've done in decades, without a doubt. I've been contemplating in my mind if it was harder than Hell Week. And I've got some talking points on that we'll do a special video on YouTube eventually, because there are some comparisons to make, and I think they're close to being equally as hard. It was just a kick in the nutsack, and it was good. We learned a lot of lessons from it, so we'll be spending the next couple of episodes breaking that down, sharing that with you guys. While I was out there, James, Chili, Blake, Brooke, and James's wife Jennifer were crewing me. And, you know, this was the first race that I've ever ran that I can genuinely and honestly say, without just being nice, I don't know if I would have made it without you guys. I don't know if I would have finished the race without you guys. I'm not just saying that to be nice either. Like, I'm being dead serious. You guys made it to where I literally didn't have to think about anything except for moving. And it got to the point where that's about all I was capable of thinking of, right? So you guys served me well out there, and we're going to talk about that race here in just a minute. First, I got a gift today, and if you guys don't know, I am a knife fiend. Like, I appreciate a good knife, a good handmade knife, more than I do a beautiful gun or made gun or whatever. The knives just really, really impress me. And so I got a gift here, Salient This came all the way from London.
That thing came across the pond.
This thing came across the pond from London, and we know our brothers over there in England, you know, they're old school, man. You know, they're living in the old world. They make really good handcrafted stuff. Us Americans, you know, we got good handcrafted stuff here in America too, but we a lot of the crap we have over here, we're consumers. We have a lot of junk, right? Well, these cats coming from the old world, Salient, made me a daggone knife, and it is unbelievable. I have never seen a knife crafted quite so beautifully as this knife, and packaged also, by the way. I mean, these jokers have went over the top. They've got a couple of cards in here. This one, I'm going to show you the knife here in just a second. Well, if I had fingernails, I'm going to have to dump this one out. They put a card in here, Nuff Said, and this is going to mean something to you guys here in a second. This knife was made by Mark and Cameron at Salient Knives of England. I'm going to show you the knife here in just a second. Let me read you this letter. I mean, this is just, I mean, look at this certificate, man. This is over the top. Letter says, I'm so pleased you've decided to receive this knife and mention it on the podcast. I wish I could do, we want to do more for you and your podcast listeners. So they have offered podcast listeners, out of the kindness of their heart, all of you guys, if you decide to get you one of these handcrafted knives, a 5% discount on all knives in the online store. Just use the discount code Nuff Said, NUFFSAID, all caps. The website is salientknives.co.uk. Tell you a little bit about this knife. This is the Salient Canterbury. It's made from N690 surgical stainless steel. It can be 100% sterile. The blade is 4 millimeters thick, hardened to 58 HRC, which means it won't bend or crack. The fixings in the handle are brass loveless bolts. The handle wood itself is English walnut from Peterborough. Get you some of that, son. Get you some of that.
Local.
Salient logo and your logo, 307 Project, is laser engraved on the blade. The sheath is 3.5 millimeter vegetable tan leather, shoulder sourced in the country of Sussex, and hand hewn by us. Unbelievable. All products are handmade around 20 miles southeast of London in the county of Kent, known as the Garden of England. Even the green cardboard box is handmade in England. These jokers can make knives with 24 karat gold inlays, just like a high-end shotgun. Look at the website. You'll get the idea. They range anywhere from $5,000 to $500. All right. So let me show you guys this thing. I don't know. I'm super excited.
That's
about
incredible.
This thing. It is literally, when you hold this in your hand, it is literally just an incredible piece of art. And here's the thing. You can also tell, though, this knife was crafted to actually be used in the field. And this would be literally the perfect blade size and shape to use as a skinning knife to skin game. So this will be my primary hunting knife from now on.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Just crazy. I mean, thank you guys. It's unbelievable, man. I can't believe people do stuff like this for me. I can't get over it. Like, why? I'm just some guy. And look at this, man.
Yeah, you are some guy, but I mean, they want to give it to you, and that's daggum awesome, man. I mean, even the box is handmade or made in. I mean, that's the nuts.
That sheath is awesome. That's some thick leather on that sheath.
Dang right it is, son. I might let you hold this thing later, James.
All right, I hope so.
So you guys heard it, 5% discount if you want. Look, this is an heirloom
Yeah, that's
this is
cool
like
as crap,
yeah,
man.
this is something that you well, I won't have the opportunity to do it as a childless heathen, but if you guys have children, this is like something you pass down year after,
Yeah,
and
that should last forever.
Somebody could hold this one day and be like, "Wow, this is my great grandfather's knife that was crafted in the old world."
It's already old because it was in the old world.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
You can pass it down to my kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll end up getting everything that I own eventually. So, really awesome. Had to shout that out on there. If you're a knife guy like me, that's a really good piece to add to your collection and special, handmade in the old world. You can't get that here. So, pretty cool. Thank you, guys. And you get a 5% discount code. Use Nuff Said, all caps. Check them out. All right. This daggone foot race that we did, if I could break this race down, first of all, it took us about 4.5 days, 103 hours to run this 250-something mile distance. If I could break it down, in a nutshell, day one was all about excitement and racing and trying to stay in the front, right? Trying to stay within striking distance of the front of the pack and pushing hard. And we'll get into the kind of the details of that section of day one here in just a second. Day two was just a straight battle in my mind. All right, so day two was just about trying to stay in the fight and not let this thing beat me mentally. In other words, day two was just about trying to keep moving. Day three was all about running well. All right? Because what happened on day two is we finally pared the race down enough we pared it down to a mileage that I could comprehend. So on day three, we ran well through all the way through Sedona, James, that section we did. I remember a couple of times on day three when I was actually running well, I almost started crying because I was running again. It felt that good to be running again after day two and night two. And then day three, the sun was up. I was running well. We were going down some technical downhills and just really covering a lot of miles. So day three was about just running well, covering a bunch of miles. Day four was about transitioning. Day four was about running smart. So at some point between day three and day four, things got so rough that we had to transition from racing and running well to back to, all right, let's be smart and let's survive this thing. Let's start being smart to actually ensure that we're going to finish this thing, and let's make decisions based off of stacking all the odds in our favor to finish this thing. Because this race was so long and difficult, and my feet in particular got so bad, there were points that I questioned of whether or not my body was going to be able to cover the remaining distance in the condition that it was in. Never thought about quitting, but you have to be honest with yourself, like, holy crap, like I can barely walk right now. And I got to go 100 more miles or 80 more miles, and I can barely walk right now. So let's start stacking the odds in our favor and making decisions based off of being able to actually finish this thing. And then day 5 was all about just finishing strong. So day 5, we only had 20 little over 20 miles left to run it in, and it was just about finishing strong. And we did that. We did that because of the decisions that we made on day 4 to stack the odds in our favor. We got it done. So that's a nutshell. Where do you guys want to begin?
Well, pre-race, I mean, what was going through your head? You said you were real excited. I'm kind of interested in that. I mean, were you legitimately pumped up and excited and still wanted to give it all you had, or what? Or did you feel odd?
Well, he was pretty pumped up. You remember he almost forgot his check bag at the airport.
Well, I remember that, but I'm just wondering what the starting line.
Yeah, I was legitimately pumped up. So pre-race, I thought that, yes, I thought it was going to be difficult, obviously, but I thought that I was going to be able to breeze through this thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I expected a few lows and this and that, but I thought, yeah, we're just gonna rock and roll through this thing like everything else we do. And I was thinking we're gonna do well too. You know, we're gonna be able to run smart and, you know, kind of pick up the pace. You know, they're toward the last couple 100 miles, and we're gonna gain a bunch of ground. And so, yeah, I was super excited. I was sick and tired of the whole taper thing. I was sick of
That's good.
not being able to run and move and having to take it easy so that my body could heal up from that big 8-week training block that I put in. And so I was ready to run on the start line. Didn't really have any nerves about it. Like I said, it had not. Day 1, here's the difference between day 1 and day 2. In terms of mindset, still staying with a pre-race, it hadn't set in.
Yeah.
Like, it took a whole day and a whole night for it to then set in, like, oh crap, this ain't 100-miler.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like you had unrealistic ideations of what was going to happen.
Totally.
So, I mean, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Totally unrealistic. I mean, I should have known, you know, if you look back at the first year that Cocodona was held, if you look through the DNFs, the did not finish on the first year, which was the same route, they ran the same route that we ran this year on the first year, there are a lot of really experienced runners in that DNF list. And I should have looked at that and said, this is odd. There's a lot of people here that didn't finish that are really, really experienced runners. What's going on here? But I didn't look at any of that. So, yeah, extremely unrealistic expectations for what this thing was going to do. You obviously in the beginning, because this was outside the boundaries of my past experience, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be twice as hard as a 100-miler. Well, a 100-mile race, yeah, it's hard. But it's not. It don't take you to the depths once you get it figured out. You know what I mean? So I thought twice as hard. I can deal with twice as hard. But in reality, I would say it was every bit of 5 times as hard as a 100-mile race. It's not just twice as hard. Fooled me on that. So that was kind of where I was at pre-race.
So, and then when you started, I knew that first section. Obviously, at some point, things kind of caught you off guard, but that first section that was the one that you really honed in on. I felt like before the race, you were like, man, the first 30 or so miles, first 38, whatever you want to say, you were like, man, I mean, I am convinced that's going to be hot as crap and everyone's going to need to slow down and some people are going to go out way too fast and, you know, they're worried about how much water we've got drops. So I knew you were expecting that, but I'm talking about that part specifically. Did that catch you off guard even still? Even though I knew you were prepared and ready for that, like, did you get in a point in that where you were like, whoa, even this is...
No, it didn't.
Okay.
I was mentally prepared for that first 37 miles because they don't make no bones about it, right? They tell you straight up, this is the hottest, hardest section of the entire course. So that in that first 37 miles, there's 10,000 feet of climbing, and it's 100+ degree heat, and it's completely exposed to the sun. There's no shade at all. So they don't make no bones about it. The one thing that did catch me off guard in that first section was the actual surface of the trail.
Oh, yeah, way rockier than you thought.
Yes.
You think groomed trails and stuff.
Well, that's what I always thought. West Coast running, these hard-packed, nice, flowy, switchback, groomed trails. And that was the one thing that was above and beyond my imagination. The entire first section of the course, once you got through the little lead up, past that first aid station at 8 miles, once you got past that, it was literally massive straight climbs, not switchback, straight up climbs and descents on trail that was covered in softball size, no smaller than a softball, sharp, loose rock.
Yep.
And you can't run on that stuff. You can't move well on it. You're trying to grip it with your feet, and it ends up just destroying the bottoms of your feet after a while. At least mine. I think other people's feet are conditioned to that type of stuff, but we don't have much of that terrain out here. But that was the part that caught me off guard. And the section was every bit as hard as they described it to be, for sure.
Well, I mean, those trails out there do have a reputation as being groomed out, and that's because there certainly is a lot of that in Utah, in Arizona, in California. There really is. But there's some of that here. But what gets ignored is all the trails that are less popular out there that are freaking hard as crap.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some stuff rough as a cob out there in Arizona. And, yeah, I mean, that race started with it. But having said that, the reason I asked that is because I felt like that was the section, maybe the only section of the race that you properly had in proper alignment in your head.
Yeah.
Like you were like, I know this first 38, but then after that, I thought you thought it was going to start getting easy.
Yeah.
And really is when it just turned up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the hardest part of the race, but just after,
I thought it was just going to be all downhill on a nice 2-track fire road after that first 38.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I could see is that you kind of had that in proper alignment, and then the rest you were just like, okay, finally I can relax. Now it's going to get easy. And then the exact opposite happened. But I am curious because I know some people on the live stream, and I want to hear what James and Blake have to say about this too. Some people on the live stream had mentioned how bad you looked at mile 38 when you came into the Crown King aid station. And after the race, you kind of were saying something about that. And like, I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't look bad. And all three of us looked at each other and were like, oh, buddy.
You look pretty rough.
I mean, what did you think, James? What was going through your head, and Blake?
Well, and to provide context for the listener, the nature of the race is set up in such a way that there's one aid station between the start and Crown King, right? And then just a place to refill water.
That's unusual.
And it's a 38-mile stretch. So the first 10, 11 hours of the race, we don't see Chad. We don't hear from Chad. We can just kind of follow him on his live tracker like everyone else. And but we've heard, hey, this is the crux of the course. This is the hardest part of the course. Everybody says that. And so we're sitting up there at Crown King, which, by the way, is just an awesome it is like going back in time. It's a 2-hour drive on a dirt road to a little town that's got a saloon, a general store with a post office, and a little auto mechanic shop. And that's it. It was awesome. But we're sitting there, and Chad comes rolling in, and he's just like red, almost like, I don't know how somebody can be red and white at the same time, but he was red and white at the same time.
That was that 10 layers of sunscreen I had on.
That's what it was. And he came in, and I think the first thing you said is, you're like, boy, that pull was no joke. And comes in and
It was probably more like, man, that bull was no joke.
had that raspy voice.
I don't even remember having a raspy
Oh yeah,
voice
it was
there.
raspy.
Yeah, I mean, that was I think that was rougher than you remember it. I really do.
Yeah, it's definitely rougher than I remember it because I didn't think I thought I was ready to rock and roll once I got in there, man.
Well, do y'all remember what he did? I mean, he sat down and just almost just looked like he didn't know what to do. And we started getting his stuff ready. And then I remember Brooke was taking care of him. And then eventually he got on his back and lifted his legs
Got
up.
his feet up in that chair.
Yep. And then we had a burger there for him. Then he sits back in that chair and he just starts nibbling on that burger. just like.
Yeah, I thought his soul might lie in Crown King for a little bit.
Dang.
And we took a long time there and everything. But, I mean, I think all of us were like, okay, well, that's not what we hoped for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not. But I think at that point, I can't speak for everybody, but we were all like, yeah, but this was almost expected after that hard section and knowing he's going to go out conservative and just, recover from this here. But I mean, we all were like, I mean, geez, that's awful rough to be this early.
Nobody talked about it, though, did we?
No, nobody said a word.
No, y'all didn't tell me.
We didn't tell each other. I think we would just thought, if we don't talk about it, we'll act like that didn't happen.
We're not going to give his pain a voice. But to your credit, the reality is there were very few people. We saw a lot of people come into Crown King. There were very few people that came in looking good. I mean, that took a toll on everyone that came through that section.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the sun took a little more toll than I expected it to. Because during that section, I stopped and we sunscreened up. We had full coverage on our top with a long sleeve barbell motive shirt and it's a long sleeve, so full coverage plus the sunscreen top and bottom. And the sun was so strong that it would burn through the clothing and the sunscreen. And this was 50 SPF sunscreen and still was burning my skin. And I stopped and reapplied that sunscreen 2 times during that leg. And the sun was just so strong. I don't know that there's any way to combat it other than just already being tanned up. And I'm just a pasty white guy here that burns easily. It's the beginning of the summertime out here in Georgia, so there's no time to really condition your skin. So I was burning, and here's the dilemma that I felt on that section because there is such limited water on that section. There's one water drop. You hit an aid station at 8 miles, and you fill up with water. I think I took 4 liters with me.
Yeah, everybody was supposed to carry 4 through that section.
Yep,
and then you have the capacity.
Yep, and then you have one water drop like halfway through, where you can only take 1 liter of water. So here's the dilemma I was in. I knew I needed to be conservative through there, but it got to the point where you start thinking in your head because of the sun, because of your limited supply of water and your limited supply of calories, you come to the realization, I know I need to go slow, but I also know I've got to get out of here. Like, I've got to get to resupply, and I've got to get out of this sun. So then you start pushing a little bit over that conservative pace just so that you can get out of that environment, because you know you can only stay in that environment for a limited amount of time simply due to your supply of water and food, right? But then also every extra minute that you spend in that exposed sun is just sapping you even more. So that's why it was hard to go real slow through there, because you knew you had to get out. And I never felt like, there were a few times on those climbs where I know I pushed a little bit too hard. My heart rate I could feel it pounding in my chest. And Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's not really about going slow. It's about going easy.
yeah.
It's about the effort. Like, you can be going pretty fast, but your effort's easy, and that's fine. And that's what that section did to you. I think it made a slow pace. It made you work way too hard on a slow pace. You know what I mean? Because it was just, yeah, I mean, you got to be ready for that. And that's that section like that right off the bat will punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, you said coming off of there, I don't know if you remember or not, and I don't remember when exactly you said it, but you said that was the hardest 50K I've ever covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is
was
100%.
It's if that was just the race, if it was just a 50K through that section, it would be a brutal race.
Yep.
And that's just, I mean, you were just getting warmed up. Chili told us, and we were sitting there after you pulled out, and we were having burgers, and somebody said something about kind of where you were in the pack, and Chili's like, hey, keep in mind, if this was a 100-mile race, he's 12 miles in.
Yeah.
Proportionately. Like, you were just getting, I mean, that's just the first 38 of a 250.
Yep. Yeah, it was no contest, the hardest 37 miles I've ever covered. No contest. So that was legit, man. But I'm glad. I'm thankful it was legit because it was built up to be that.
Yeah.
And dang sure would have been disappointed if it would have been piddly. But it won't piddly. And got into Crown King. Yeah, we spent I think about 30 minutes.
Yeah, too long.
Yeah, in Crown King. And left out of there on some it was a big long stretch of fire roads, 2-track gravel roads through the Bradshaw Mountains. Pretty decent climb out of Crown King, but once you got up out of there, the fire road was basically just staying on a contour line along the edge, you know, just off the summit of those Bradshaw Mountains, just wrapping in and out of the draws and spurs. And I spent that entire section of I don't know exactly how far that was to the next aid station.
16 miles.
So I spent about 16 miles completely. I spent that whole time simply recovering from that first section. So I'd run a little bit, but it was just hydrating because my hydration got way out of whack. I peed one time in the first 10 hours, and it looked like Coca-Cola.
Which is crazy for you because
I pee all the time.
When we ran those other sections, it was every 15, 20 minutes.
Yep. So I peed one time in 10 hours. So that whole next section was about eating, just getting my hydration back right, doing that deal. We rolled through maybe 2 aid stations. Because after I left Crown King, there was another 30-some-odd mile section where I didn't see you guys.
That's right.
You went about 16, 17 to Arastra Creek. You remember that one?
Yep.
And then from there you went to Friendly Pines, which is you got there in the night, and that's where we saw you.
Okay. All right. Friendly Pines in the night. Does anybody remember Friendly Pines?
Oh, I remember.
Oh, yeah. We all remember that well.
Yeah. Well, what was happening there?
That was ridiculous.
Well, on the crew side of things, we got there a little early and scoped it out like we did all the other aid
About
stations.
6 hours too early.
Yeah. But we'd planned on sleeping, getting there and getting some sleep. And so we pull in, and Chili gets ill at some workers there. And finally we settle in. We get down there and settle in, and James wanders off into the forest with his ground pad to sleep out in the bitter cold. And me and Chili lay down in the car, and Chili, after about 15 minutes of rolling around and stirring and moaning and groaning, he says, you know, I'm going to get out here and lay in this gravel parking lot with no ground pad with my little micro fleece
By the way,
blanket because I need
Walmart.
By the way, it wasn't after 15 minutes. It was about hours of just being like, this is just What the crap,
Well,
man?
time passes by faster when you're sleeping lovely. So I was sleeping lovely over there. Chili wakes me.
No, he wasn't. He's moving
he
every
says,
5 minutes.
I need to get flat. I got to get flat. I'm going to get out here on the ground and lay down. And I said, well, that's kind of odd thing to do, Chili. You got a warm car here. You lay the seat back. And he says, nope, I got to get flat. And I said, well, all right. And I thought, he ain't going to be out there long. So he opens up his door and he puts his foot down in about 2 inches of dust in the parking lot, and it wafts some dust up in his face, and a cold breeze hits him, and he immediately closes the door. And I said, well, I didn't last long, did it, Chili? He said, no, a little too cold out there. So he lays in the car for a little bit, but he eventually gets out there after he thieves James's ground pad from him once James is done sleeping.
Yep.
And
Yeah, once I had that, that was real nice. That blanket kept me warm out there. You know, I got all manner of fun made out of me for buying that blanket. And then Friendly Pines, I used that sucker heavy.
well, Chad did too. That blanket
Well,
become essential gear.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. The daggum shouldn't have let him have it. Should have burned it.
But James got us a good parking spot up there, and Chad come rolling in. What mile was that one?
71.
71.2, yeah.
And that was where you could pick up a pacer.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
At
all
Friendly
that.
Pines.
Well,
71.
yeah, you guys didn't even talk about your parking spot in Crown King. I got to see a video of that.
Did somebody make a video of that?
Drake sent me a video
Oh,
of that.
good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if we were to back up to Crown King, I'll tell you guys, if you ever go to Crown King and you're coming up Main Street, big, long, wide paved Main Street, lots of parking, but there's one spot you shouldn't park, and that's just past the saloon on the right. There's some sort of building that might be a home or might
It
not
looks like
be.
looks like a little prefabbed log cabin.
Yeah.
Style.
And there's a nice, lovely parking spot right there. Yeah, they got the parking bumpers there. No parking signs, nothing like that. Don't park there, because we did, and we come back by.
They ran a chain across it.
Chain right in front of the vehicle with a lock on both ends.
Locked you in.
What, did you just twist that chain until it broke?
No, they had the chain was hooked to an eye bolt on each side that was screwed into
okay.
something. So I just unscrewed the eye bolt.
Blake just backed that right on out.
Yeah, I saw him on the video twisting that chain. I was like, dang, is he going to just twist that thing till it heats up and snaps?
No, I just back the eye bolt out. You know, if you're gonna lock something up with a chain, it's
Yeah.
got to be locked a little bit better than that.
Yeah, he just backed that right on out, pulled the car back, screwed it right back in.
Those folks came out. They thought you were magic.
They had
that
to.
car had disappeared.
Houdini over there.
You got to be adaptable. When somebody locks you in, you got to know how to get out.
Oh, we're adaptable.
So yeah, the parking spot at Crown King, don't park there. If you do, you got to come up with. I bet they have upped their lock game.
Yeah, I bet they have too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I forgot, there's another aid station that I hit before I came into Friendly Pines. That was Camp Kippa.
Camp Kippa.
Yeah,
That's
there
right.
was a big climb up to Camp Kippa, and it was an indoor aid station.
Oh, yeah, you spent some time in there, right?
Yeah, and that's where I saw Mike McKnight,
Yeah.
which is the most renowned 200-mile runner that is
Yeah.
today. He's won them all. I think this was, he said, about his 10th 200-mile race, and came up into Camp Kippa. Got me a little chow up in there, and Mike was kind of bundled up on a couch, and he was going through some big struggles, and I hope he tells that story sometime of exactly what it was he was going through. But man, this dude looked done. I mean, I thought he was toast, and I even think I said after I picked Chili up later on, I said, I think Mike McKnight's out of the race, man. That was really surprising, but
Show wasn't.
he sure wasn't out of the race, and I'm telling you this because it comes into play later on in the story. It made me have a lot of respect for the guy. But rolling into Friendly Pines, I don't remember when I got to Friendly Pines at mile 71, was it still nighttime?
Yeah, it was nighttime. You came in.
About 2 in the morning.
They had that
Okay.
indoor aid station there too. We had moved all your gear in that indoor aid station.
Okay,
And
I know
old
where
Chad
we're at
comes
now.
up, and I said, "Come on, we got to get." And he said, "I ain't going in there." I said, "Well, that's where we're set up." He's like, "Nah, we're gonna operate out of the back of the car.
Yeah.
Which I get, but also we did that there because it was going to be warm in there, and you were back daggum freezing.
Well, and James said when he had went in there was nobody in
It
there.
was empty.
Yeah.
An hour before you got there was nobody in there, and then you were towards the middle back of that front pack at that point.
Yeah.
And there were probably 6 people that came in.
Yeah.
Hour before you, them and all their crew flooded in there, so it was pretty packed in there.
Yeah, them first 2 aid stations, we were able to get dialed in on exactly what we was going to do. Took us a couple times.
Well, I mean, I get Chad's desire to do it out of the car. I mean, that's what I would prefer. However, sometimes you have to prioritize things, and I was like, I mean, he's shaking. Like, somehow you're going to have to get warm, so enter the blanket that piece of crap over there made fun of me for.
Is that when he started using it, Friendly Pines?
We wrapped him up in it there, and I was like, oh, you ain't cold out here now, are you, bub?
So one of the things that happens, a lot of you guys may not take this into consideration, but when you are out there and you're getting that hot sun all day and you're pushing hard, and then at night in the desert out there, it gets really, really cold. And what happens when you're putting this amount of stress on your body is you are not able to stay warm like you can when you're rested up and you're 100%. So your body kind of loses its ability to thermoregulate or control its temperature. So you get cold really, really fast. And when you get cold, I mean you get shoal enough cold, like jackhammering cold. And so I must have been feeling that when I came into Friendly Pines and stopped for a little bit.
Oh yeah,
and it was windy up there too. So that wind
where was it not windy?
Also. Well, that's true.
The whole dang that state ought to be called the windy state. The wind just blew the entire time. There were maybe a couple hour spells here and there right at dawn where the wind wasn't blowing.
Yeah, it was howling up there.
Yeah. So I got to pick up Chili at Friendly Pines.
Yep.
And we went from Friendly Pines to Whiskey Row, which was not a very long section. Looks like, maybe 7 miles? Do you remember anything about that, Chill? That first section we ran together?
Yeah, I mean, I remember we immediately picked up on a trail. And I felt like the whole race was marked really well, but I was like, well, what the crap? I mean, right off the bat of pacing you, I was like, well, I got to look at I don't even know where we go right here. And you were basically saying that hadn't happened yet. You remember that?
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, this is kind of confusing. So I had to check it. But luckily, I hate running with my phone or looking at my phone that much. I mean, I absolutely despise it. But I didn't want to get you off course so bad that I basically just looked at it the whole time. And I remember pulling it out and being like, okay, we'll just get, correct and easy. I mean, we didn't get off. We just had to stop there for just a second and look. But then you told me, like, well, that hadn't happened yet. It's always been super, super easy. But I remember that section being just kind of almost like mountain bike trails through that little section of woods. And then we popped out on the road. We went back and forth with Sally McCrae right through there. Remember that?
No.
I don't know if you remember any of this section because you seemed pretty out of it. And I mean, no kidding. You were moving all right, but I was already telling you, like, you're not moving as good as you need to. And you stopped and took a crap. Sally ran by you then. And
I do remember that section.
You were like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
And all that. And I was
look
like,
at me over here.
And I was like, hey man, let's move. All right. I mean, this is good stuff here. Once we got to the road and we ran, but it just, I was like, it's so early, but I feel like you've wasted a ton of time. So let's make it back when we can. And then, I mean, we tried, but into Whiskey Row, we didn't run super fast. But, after we came out of that like mountain bikey trail, do you remember that road section? We kind of went back and forth with some people. Sally was behind us. We came in on some sidewalk, and then we came into that Whiskey Row in Prescott, which is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a cool
little
city.
And it was getting light right about when we got in there.
Yep.
Does that
Yep.
ring a
I
bell?
remember that. I remember we got into Whiskey Row. It was still dark, but it was close to sunup.
Yeah, we got into Whiskey Row, and I brought you to that back bathroom in that aid station.
Yep.
There was a sleep station there. Yep.
Yep. So that put us at mile 78.3.
Yep.
And that would have put us right about the 24-hour mark.
Yeah.
Right around there, 24 hours on course. So to put it in perspective,
Oh, was that 24?
would've
if
been.
it would have been right
he
about
started
sunrise.
at
True. That's true.
Started
Yeah.
at 5
That's true.
a.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just to put this in perspective, most, if you look back, 100-mile mountain race here in North Georgia for me takes me usually about 20 hours at, say a Georgia Jewel course.
Well, you've never done that in faster than 22. Your PR there is 21:53.
Oh, okay. 22 hours then. I don't even know what my times were. A 24
Really does.
100-mile race on flat terrain,
Remember everything.
you can run in 24 hours extremely easy. So a mountain course here in Georgia, 100 miles, 22 hours on average. We're at 24 hours here at Cocodona, and we're only at 78.3 miles. So just to put it in a little perspective of how slow we moved, especially across that first 37-mile section. Yeah, Whiskey Row was awesome. I guess I was getting pretty tired at that point.
Yeah. It was insane how tired you were. I mean, we probably should have just went ahead and slept for 3 hours there. I mean, that's what I would have done as a sleep strategy.
That probably would have been smart.
But nobody was asking about that. So
You didn't sleep at all there, did he?
no.
Yeah, you just pressed
so
on.
nobody was asking about that. So we just went out of there together again.
Just decided to keep pushing.
And yeah, it was pretty much walking on the sidewalk mainly, because we kind of went down into Prescott. It was that like a neighborhood type thing, and a lot of sidewalk. And I mean, I'm talking about a hilly.
Hold on. That's when I was sleepwalking.
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
And the sun was coming up, so you were getting really cold. We were walking, and I mean, you were jackhammering, walking pretty much, and the sun was just cresting. I turned my headlamp off, and we were walking mainly on the road there. I was like, come on, man, we need to run some of this. I mean, this is the prime of what you got, and you were just in a bad way, really, physically, and it was uphill, so you didn't want to run there, because I'm telling you, that road section there was hilly neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about legit hills for a road, so we were walking those, and then after that, for a while, that took some time. I mean, you were walking so slow. Finally, you were kind of warmed up, but I look back, and I mean, you were literally stumbling.
Yeah.
I would walk in front of you and just hear you like scraping the ground in a way that was like, this dude's falling over. I mean, it was like, I was like, what is he doing? So I started trying to talk just to keep you awake. And I would say something and you would kind of respond, and then you'd just trail off again and just, and I'm like, good Lord. I mean, this is what happens when you get that far behind in sleep. But I thought surely once we get moving again at a faster pace and it warms up and you see the sun, like you can come out of this. But even then I knew you got way too tired without any sleep, way too sleepy. Like you can't get that far going. I mean, you have to stay ahead of that sleep, I think.
But the weird thing is we'd only been awake for 25, 26 hours.
Yeah,
at
but
that
you
point.
know as well as I do that it can hit you then.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you can be good. I mean, especially you have shown you can be good way longer than that, but that's long enough to where on whatever day it can hit you then.
I think
I mean, you know that.
I think what this whole sleep thing is something that nobody has quite figured out. I think what calculates into the sleep deprivation is the cumulative stress.
Well, yeah.
So you look at a race like Mid-State Mile, for instance, and that loop is so slow, it's not putting a lot of stress on me, right? You're in the shade the whole time. You're not exposed. Yeah, it's hot, but you're in the shade. You're never really pushing. Your heart rate's never going up. And I think that's why at a race like that, I can stay awake for so much longer and never get even close to as tired as I was at 25, 26 hours out here at Cocodona. I think it's cumulative stress basically shortens your window that you're able to function without sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert here, but you can apply common sense that you go out here, you can just lay in the sun on the beach and not do anything and go to your room tonight and you're going to be tired. The sun does something to you to sap energy from you just by simply being in it. So you add moving and doing this stuff out in the exposed sun essentially the whole time, other than when it's night, then yeah, it's going to make you tired a lot faster, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you had developed a fever already. I mean, I was pretty convinced of that at times of how cold you were. And I mean, like not cold and had puff jacket on and blanket and you were jackhammering, like that's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's not separate from you talking earlier about you lose the ability to dysregulate your body temperature. I mean, I'm talking about the same thing. You had like a fever. I mean, your core temperature was way too high and your skin was, cold. It was just dumping heat. I mean, it's not good, so that's part of why I think that morning was so rough. Right before the sun comes up, it's the coldest that it's going to get. And we were moving slow and you were just, not in a good way with your core temperature. And I think it made you sleepy.
Well, also, you're probably really deficient on calories, too. And so that also hinders your regulation of your heat. So
I mean, Chad stayed on top of food about as good as you can do in that early section and really the whole time. But what people don't understand is you cannot eat enough.
Right.
Like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
He stayed on it about as good as he could do, and he was still very behind on calories. I mean, that's just the nature of ultra running.
Yep.
A lot of people don't understand that. I mean, the best you can do is to only be a little bit behind. I mean, that's the best. So when you are behind on calories, it's really hard to warm up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard on your body too. And that's what some people don't understand. They think they can eat enough. Like, I'm going to burn 10,000 calories and I'm going to eat 10,000 calories. Nope, you won't do that. You will be behind, but you can get really close. And that's what I thought to give you a compliment, you did an excellent job on the early section of staying pretty dang hydrated given the circumstances. I know you got a little behind, but also enough food. I mean, you had ate almost everything I put in your pack the first couple times.
Yeah, you nailed it on that pack, man. Chili repacked my pack at every aid station, and I never had to worry if I was going to have enough food. Never had to think about what went into the pack. I just put the pack on and just rolled out. And I knew there was Chili would calculate the amount of calories I needed for the time and distance that I had to cover before my next resupply. And there was always the perfect amount of food plus a few hundred calories in that pack just in case. And I never got hungry on the race. As a matter of fact, there was a point where it got really hard to eat, but never got hungry. But yeah, that's the first time that I have experienced falling asleep for like 1 second while I was walking. Multiple times falling asleep while I was walking, starting to stumble, and the stumbling woke me up. That's the first time I've experienced that since Hell Week. That was insane, man.
Well, I was right, though, about what I thought would happen. Once the sun came up, you stopped doing that.
Yeah.
You did. I mean...
And I think also I took a little caffeine for the first time.
Yeah.
There. Yeah, which helped pull me out of that. The sun, though, is the major thing when that comes up. And so we're headed to Iron King. It was a long stretch. From Whiskey Row was mile 78, Iron King, mile 92.2. Did we go through that section in those rocks?
Yeah,
around that lake.
I wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, if you were going to Iron King, I was going to bring you back. Right after you kind of stumbled while you were walking, we got into some better running. You actually woke up and it was still that smooth trail. We passed a few people, talked to them, and we started running a little bit, but then not long, we hit that lake. I think it's called Watson Lake.
I think that's right.
And at first, I had heard all this stuff about it, and that it was beautiful and all this, and it's like this, kind of like this creek and this little body of water, and I'm like, well, that's pretty underwhelming. But we ran by that, and then you hit this, you start seeing these huge rock formations, and then you see what the lake really is, and then the running, the good running we were doing for a little bit was over.
Yeah, it was a rock scramble. It was a boulder scramble.
Yeah.
It's the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah. Oh, I knew that wasn't really tickling your fancy when we got to that. I mean, you had gotten talkative, and then you just like quiet again, almost just like walked well, but with your head down, just getting through it, you know?
Yeah.
And you may not remember, but that section, and you may not love it as much as I did, was absolutely incredible. I mean, Watson Lake is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It's gigantic red rocks stacked on top of each other in just like these crazy formations, almost like they were put there. And that lake is just awesome. And you have great views of it with mountains in the background the whole time as we're just wrapping around it. I mean, it's really something. And, but also, it's really a brutally hard section to try to move fast in.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't see any of that beauty.
Yeah.
I just remember glancing.
Well, I took pictures for you.
I just remember glancing over at them rock formations one time and saying, Chili, you think the Indians did this?
Yep. I do remember that. Well, actually, I didn't take pictures. I took some video for Drake, but so hopefully you'll get to see that again and be like, that's pretty nice. I'd like to go back there. But
hitting some outlaw turismo around that thing.
I was touring without my partner Blake for a while in that section.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like we were in that for a super long time, though.
It really wasn't that long. It's because it was a really short section. It took us forever to cover the 2 miles that it was, but it didn't seem super long because it was only 2 miles. And
okay.
And you moved well. I thought for how hard that was, you moved well. I was pretty happy with it. I was like, I mean, this is going to slow everybody down tremendously. But we passed people.
Yeah.
You know, there was some hard climbs we were moving way faster than the people around us at that section. So I was like, well, this is good. This is slow, but this is actually comparatively pretty fast. So.
Yeah, I remember you giving me some compliments going through there. And then after that, didn't we have like a long like sidewalk section almost to?
No, it was a dirt road. I wouldn't call it fire road, and it wasn't sidewalk. It was unpaved, but it was kind of.
Isn't that where all them houses on the left side? Like
that was right before that.
Okay.
That was right before Watson Lake. Leaving Watson Lake it's kind of just dirt road. You remember?
And where was what did Iron King look like?
It was on a sidewalk.
Picked up Brooke?
Yeah, that's where you picked up Brooke. Now that was a sidewalk. Yeah. Maybe if you're jumping way ahead to there, but we ran for miles on that dirt road.
Did we really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We ran for miles and ran too. I didn't think it was fast enough running, but we ran the whole way. And
that's good to hear. I was still running.
Oh yeah, you were running there. I was digging into you then, and you kind of were like, I remember I didn't like how much you wanted the aid station to be right around the corner then. I'll be honest, you were really I could tell you were really wanting it to be soon. And one time you asked me how far it was, and I think you had miscalculated. Like you thought it was 4 miles away when it was like 6 miles away. Uh-huh. So when we were 2 miles out, you started being like, where is it? You know, and I was like, it's probably 2 miles away. And you were like, what? I was like, yeah, man, it's like, this ain't it. Because there was those houses you may have been talking about. Yeah. There was some like weird structures there and everything in that field. And
yeah,
it was exposed. I was burning to a crisp. And you were like, where is it, Chili? And I'm like, dude, trust me, it's 2 miles out. and you were just pissed. And
Should have said 1 mile out.
well, yeah, we hadn't
Got there
We
yet.
hadn't quite got to that point.
We were still able to run at that point,
yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, and then, but it was so funny, man. Like even right after I said that, we were running the whole time, and then something happened, and you stopped to walk, and it was just like I could tell, like that was not a big. It was a little bit demoralizing, to be on a long section like that, because from Whiskey Row, I mean, it was a good 15 miles or something like that. It's 13. I mean, it was a long
from
13.
78 to 92.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that got long because of how slow Watson Lake was and everything, and I think you wanted it to be right there, and it wasn't, and there's nothing you can do other than keep moving. So we finally ran again. We hit that sidewalk, and I told you to walk into the aid station to recover so you could get out of there quicker, and that's what we did. And then we got into Iron King right there on the side of the road, and you told me you wanted Brooke to pace you for that next 5.
Yep, that was just that kind of random spot there on the side of the road. Yeah, I remember that. Anybody got anything else up to this point?
No, you came in, and
because we're gonna take it one more step from Iron King to Fane Ranch at Satisfy, and then we're gonna shut it down because Fane Ranch is the 100-mile mark.
just after Fane Ranch. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, you picked up Brooke there.
Yeah, well, there's an awesome picture of you leaving Iron King from Fane Ranch right after I got done pacing you, and I'm just, Drake's got you real focused right in front of you, and you're walking, and I'm kind of good bit in the distance off on the grass, looking down the sidewalk, and I'm just kind of blurred out, standing there with my arms crossed and my head cocked, just looking at you, and it just makes me laugh every time I see it. I'm like, I think that's a look of disapproval as you're walking, leaving the aid station. It's such a funny picture to me, just because of where we had just been and what was happening. It's just, I love that picture though, because you were leaving Iron King, in my opinion, not in a great way, like needing sleep already then bad, because we had just, it was hours ago that you were falling asleep walking.
Yeah.
And you hadn't fell asleep yet. So I was just thinking, come on, playa, you're going to have to do something here. And
So this would have put us at Iron King. We would have been there probably late morning.
Yeah. I think that seems about right.
So we're up probably over 30 hours now of no sleep.
close, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got that 5-mile section, but leaving out of Iron King, we pretty much left out of there and immediately got into that daggone cow pasture
Yeah.
on Fane Ranch.
Yeah, you and Brooke, right? So none of us know what that was like.
Yep. So I remember this section. It was only a 5-mile stretch. We leave there. We're on a little bit of roads. We finally get kind of on a gravel road, but we're in this massive, it's like a prairie. There's no trees, nothing, no buildings. It's just this massive ranch. And we're on this gravel road. We hadn't crossed the fence into the pasture yet, and I got struck with a poo
Again.
real quick. And when you get struck with a poo and you've been eating all these gels and Laurel bars and all this stuff, it's coming. You ain't gonna buck it. So there's nowhere around to poo. And I'm like, well, I'm either going to drop my drawers right here and crap in front of the world and everybody because there's other runners and stuff around. But then I looked to my right, and there was
behold,
behold, there was
Opened up like the heavens before him.
there was a culvert pipe. So there was a galvanized culvert that went under a road, a big galvanized pipe that was just big enough that I could squat down, hunch, and get into. And I hunched down, went about halfway under the road into that galvanized pipe, and took me a poo. That was rough, bad rough. And Brooke loved it though. I'm sure a lot of Mexicans have done that before on job sites, but I've never done that personally. And in my life. So that was a new experience for me.
It could have even been a Caucasian on a job site might have done it.
Could have been Guatemalan, anything.
Well, no, ain't no whites work anymore in construction. So I clambered my way out of that. We crossed a darn. They had these little wooden step ladders that went up and over the barbed wire fence that basically encompassed Fane Ranch, which is a private piece of property that the race directors have gotten permission to traverse in order to link all this course up. And we start across a cow pasture. Now, there's no trail. You're walking across really uneven ground that's covered in cow crap and tracks, and it's all pitted up. You're in probably knee-high grass with massive amounts of deadly cactus kind of sprinkled in.
Deadly cactus. You get stuck by one of them and you're out.
You might as well call it a day.
Deadly cactus.
Somehow,
Right.
I got through this entire race without getting stuck by a cactus a single time. I don't know how I did
Yeah,
it.
that's impressive.
Because it was everywhere out in those fields. And so we're just walking across the dang cow pasture. And, of course, Brooke's she's getting totally distracted by cows. She's just kind of walking along with me. And, like, the only way you know you're on course is there will be like a flag in the middle of the cow pasture that's like as far as you can see. You can barely see the flag, and you know you got to walk to that. And then when you get to that, you'll see another one way out. And then eventually, finally, Brooke's like, hey, I'm going to start looking for these flags for you so you don't have to find them.
Once there were no more cows.
Yeah, once we
crap.
got past the cows, she started picking the flags out, and we're making our way across that. There was no running on that surface. It was just a hike across that surface, and that brought us. I'm telling you, dude, it was uneven. It was really.
Well, I think you made the decision that a lot of that course was unrunnable, and therein lies the problem.
Well, I didn't see anybody running through that field.
Yeah, I think I saw one guy later on
We got
when
passed
me
by
and
one
James
guy that was running.
saw one dude that was running across that field.
There you go.
So we got a text from Brooke as you were coming into the Satisfy aid station. So this would have been the tail end of that section. And she says he's hit a bit of a low point. He wants Coke. Was the text?
I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that. And then rolling into the Satisfy running aid station, the Fane Ranch aid station, they had a party going on, son.
Yeah. They had they had like white couches and a big circus tent.
Yeah, it's
type
pretty
thing.
cool.
Talk
Yeah.
about a wind tunnel. They wasn't no wind
man.
worse than Fane. Maybe except maybe on Eldon, but
Dude,
That place was.
Yeah, it was ripping
that
through
is
there.
true. Eldon was, yeah. But no, Fane Ranch was probably stronger winds, no kidding.
They had a big trailer set up with Normatec boots.
Yeah.
you
All
should have hit a lick on them.
All kinds of stuff set up.
You remember
in
when
there.
you just blew through that aid station?
Yep.
Like the legend he is.
What a freaking legend.
No, I'll tell you what I do remember. I remember getting that Coke, but I remember Jennifer gave me a cup of Coke, and it was full of ice, and it made me so dang cold drinking that darn Coke with ice in it. I just remember thinking, I drank 2 cups of it
Yeah.
before I realized, I probably should have just drank this Coke at room temperature.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We didn't take any rest there. We got resupplied.
Yeah, you didn't sleep, yeah.
Didn't sleep. Got back on our feet and went through the aid station. We didn't know it, but apparently the people who were running the live stream thought that I just came into the aid station and just blew through it without any resupply or anything, because we later saw a clip from the live stream that said, can you confirm that Chad Wright just came through the 100-mile aid station and just blew through it without stopping?
He walks up to the aid station table on camera and he looks around at everything, and then he's like, "Nah," and he just takes on walking.
Yep.
They're like, this joker just blew through this aid station.
100-mile aid station just blew through it like the legend that I am. The great thing is that the cameras didn't see the 20 minutes I spent in the car before I actually walked through the aid station to get back on course. So that puts us at the 100-mile point, and
You don't want to go to Mingus, do you, since James is here and he paced you there?
yeah, I'll let James talk us through that section, and then we'll cut it off.
Okay.
Yeah, so because that was about 7 miles of walking down a fence line through that dang cow pasture and then up Mingus. So talk us through that section and what you remember and what happened on that section, James.
So we left that Satisfy aid station and got right into more of that field that sounds like similar to what you and Brooke went through.
It was worse.
It was worse. And I mean, it was just, there wasn't even trail. It was just flags in a field.
Yeah.
And that high grass wind was just, I just remember the wind through there was just whipping. And it would have been afternoon then because we were, so it was hot. And it was just, it just felt like it never ended. And it was hard to run in it. We walked just about all of it because it was just hard to run. You were coming out of Satisfy, coming out of that aid station. I asked you, do you want me to lead or you want me to follow you? And you said, just set us a pace out in front. And I did. And we, so it felt like forever. It was probably 7 miles or so that we were just on this field. It was flat, but it was just rough.
Trying to get to the base of Mingus Mountain to start the climb.
Which was the first really big climb, I think, since the 50K.
Yeah.
It's the first part of the race. And then we got to Mingus, which was, I think, about, 3,000 feet of elevation gain, 2,700 feet, something like that, over a few miles.
Yep.
It's a legitimate climb. But, man, you moved really good. I felt like the field was slow, but I think that was just the nature of the beast. But then as we headed up Mingus, I felt like we moved pretty good, at least through that first section. Once we got up towards the top, the sun was just, got a lot of exposure up there, got hot. And we slowed down a bit once we got up towards the top. The thing that I remember about that section that was interesting is we got passed by a couple people early on in that climb.
Oh, yeah.
Who were trying to move quick up that mountain.
Yeah.
And by the time, and we just slow and steady just chipped away at it. And by the time we got to the top, we had passed one or two of them back, and anybody else, and we had caught up to a few people that were just a couple hundred yards ahead of us that we could see as we came up over Mingus and then down the backside just a little bit into that next aid station. I think that was like a 14-mile section, maybe something like that, between Satisfy and that next aid station.
Yeah,
13 or so.
Right, that would have been from 97 to 110.
Okay, so 13 miles.
Yep. Yeah, I remember. I thought my climbing ability was good, really throughout the duration of the race. So at this point in the race, the section James was talking about, yeah, it was interesting to see how just that slow and steady pace, the people who were pushing harder, it ended up only putting them, I mean, they were within sight, maybe a couple hundred yards ahead of us, and we just maintained constant forward motion up that. My feet hadn't gave up the ghost at this point. My feet didn't give up the ghost.
Yeah. I mean, in the Mingus, though, that's when it started.
Coming down
off
of Mingus is when it started. So, now when we got up to Mingus, did we take a sleep up there? Still no sleep.
You wanted to. And
Oh yeah,
we made the
didn't I?
decision because I had felt like you should have taken one a long time ago that would set you up better, but you didn't. And then you kind of wanted to there. And I was like, look, dude, this is a bad spot to do it. It's windy. It's cold. It's high. It's kind of getting into the evening. No. Terrible time. Like, you picked the wrong time, dude. You got to get down off of this as quick as possible, and then you can.
I remember that. I remember wanting to take a sleep up there, and that's exactly what you guys told me, because that Mingus was a big summit. It's actually, in my opinion, was the best view of the entire course was up on top of that Mingus Mountain. You could actually see the rest of the course from the top of Mingus. You could see all down through Sedona and up onto the Cocodona Plateau and all the way to the end, Mount Eldon and everything. And I did want to rest up there, but because of the elevation and the wind, it was very cold. And you guys put this kibosh on that, son.
You know, the interesting thing about that aid station that I'm sure it'll play into the second half of the podcast here, but you left out of that aid station in front of Michael McKnight. Mm-hmm. That's the last time that I saw him in that race was in that aid station. So even at a mile, what was it? Mile 110.
Yep.
You were ahead of the guy that ultimately went on to win that race, which is
interesting, isn't it?
Which is pretty interesting. And he didn't look great at that aid station either. He was sitting beside, because they were parked just right kind of beside us. Mm-hmm. And he was sitting, he came in a little while after you and was there a while after you left. And because we didn't spend a whole lot of time at that one. Because it was so cold, we wanted to keep you moving.
Well, we spent a little too much time. You got there and you were dealing with your feet already. I guess it just hadn't got to the point that it ultimately did, but we took your shoes off and we're dealing with stuff there, and you were wondering what to do, and then we ate a little bit, then got up, and then we did that death walk to the bathroom up there. You remember, me and Blake? Yep. And so that took some time, and then it was just getting late, and I just remember thinking, like, you got to get moving, and just around and in that aid station, it was a crawl, man. I mean, how did you – I think the last thing to go on you was your climbing muscles. How did they feel coming up Mingus?
My climbing muscles felt good. I mean, what made my climbing good is it took the pressure off my feet.
Yeah.
It put the pressure from the pounding the bottom of my feet to it transitioned it to my actual leg muscles, which were still good to go. Yeah, so I felt good.
How stiff were you getting every time you laid in the car? To be honest with you, it wasn't stiff. Yeah.
It was the bottom of my feet. My feet would swell, and when I would stand back up, as soon as I touched my feet to the ground, it was excruciating pain. I mean, absolutely excruciating.
I couldn't believe when we were in Mingus, we took your shoes off then, and then you put them back on. And I remember what you did when you put them back on. You were laying back in the car, kind of how I am now, and you went like this to put your shoe back on.
Yeah. 110
miles in, deep. Like, dude, that's a risky move to just do like this with your hip flexor. I mean, that can freaking about end you. Like, just, the cramps and crap you can get. I mean, that was wild to me that you just did. I mean, you
effortlessly.
Yeah,
too.
nonchalant.
Like,
and then did the other one, and then just stood up, and I was like, that's a really, 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 really good sign that his muscles are in that kind of shape.
Yeah.
And,
my muscles were good. I mean, even through the end, my muscles, leg muscles weren't even sore at the end of this race. It's really, really, I cannot tell you how frustrating it is and was to have good muscles but not be able to move on the count of the soles of your feet.
Yeah.
I just can't tell you how absolutely frustrating that part of this race was. But we'll cut it off there. And because the next part of this race is when we really start to get down into the pits, near to despair. and that was the next section with Blake, which we'll cover down on the next episode covering this race, and we'll take you on through the end. But coming down off of Mingus is where we really got into the feet finally gave up the ghost. I was at my lowest of lows, and me and Blake had a little conversation, and we'll go over all that on the next episode, because from that point, that's where it really got ugly, was from that section on. And old Blake will be able to drop some wisdom on y'all when we talk about coming down off of Mingus. A lot happened there, so that'll be coming up on the next episode. We've got some work to do today, and we're going to get out and get prepped for that, get ready to rock and roll. We got a hard day's work ahead of us. I'm not moving around too well. My lower back seized up 2 days ago. Literally found myself on the floor in the kitchen with bacon on the stove, frying, and clawed my way up into a chair, but couldn't get any further than that. Had to call for an emergency stove turn off and a carry to the couch where I could then lay for an entire day. But I'm able to get up and walk around a little bit today anyway, so I'm going to let you guys do the majority of the work today. But
Got you. We'll do the heavy lifting.
I'll be out there riding around on the four-wheeler.
You just sit there in that chair and get everybody checked in at that station.
We had a couple super chats here. Brett Childers, he gave us $20, said get you some Epsom salt and have Chili rub your feet.
Thank you, Brett. I will do that.
We had 22 Cheapster. He said he appreciates everything we do and the why behind what you do it. Keep pushing yourselves and preaching about Christ because you can. 22 Cheapster.
Thank you, 22 Cheapster. Means a lot, brother. We
Thank y'all
appreciate
both.
it. And we appreciate all you guys tuning in. Again, we'll come back with the second half of this next week and talk to you guys about what it's like in the valley of despair. All right? Get ready for it. Nuff said.